Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. Tonight I'm here to talk to you guys about 3 things I'm teaching my daughters about relationships. And y'all, the news cycle has been absolutely brutal. And if you know anything about me, if you've been following me for any point of time, you understand I am a codependency coach. In many cases, when I define codependency, although I did indeed write a book. So if you're not sure about whether you are suffering from codependency, if you have found yourself in relationships where you're dealing with bitterness and grief and manipulation, maybe control, I do recommend that you check out a copy of my book that can be found on my website, www.how2chick.com/glory. You can download the first 3 days for free, do the work, and if it speaks to you, go ahead and grab a copy. But if you know anything that you know then you know that the boundaries that you set in your life are not against other people. They're for you. And it's so imperative that you have a good understanding of who you are in order to set those boundaries. But again, tonight I'm not coming to talk about that. I'm talking about 3 things that I'm teaching my daughters about relationships. My name is Naomi. I go by the How To Chick. I am a wife, a mom, an attorney, a speaker, a coach, a mentor, and an author. But most importantly, I believe that you can do anything, but you cannot do everything, and you must choose wisely. Over the last maybe 3 years, I have been working in the space of codependency, and codependency is like anything else. It's on a spectrum. You can be codependent in some ways and not in other ways, in some spaces and not in other spaces, and in some relationships and not in other relationships. But it's a place where many women, especially women who have grown up in a religious tradition or as oldest daughters, as I am, have grown up parentified, caregiving, exist. This is the space where we're comfortable. We people please to earn love. We do for others what they should be doing for themselves. And we give up our power by abandoning our dreams, goals, and desires on the off chance that those around us are better served by our presence than we are. All of that said, this news cycle has been horrible. And so I'm here tonight to talk to you about 3 things that I'm teaching my daughters so that they do not find themselves in a situation where they have abandoned themselves and they cannot escape. Domestic violence has been at the top of the menu. It's always existed, full stop. I've talked about the fact in the past that I came from a home where domestic violence was prevalent. Child abuse existed. And the news cycle in this past couple of weeks has been very triggering for me, as well as a lot of other women, especially people who are recognizing how close they came to being in a situation where they could have been victimized. People are beginning to name and shine the light on what happens. Women are speaking up more boldly. Communities and churches are being affected and forced to face the consequences of failing to teach, act, and name abuse as it has existed. In short, what I have called choosing to raise our daughters and coddle our boys. But tonight I'm not here to talk about our boys, although that is a topic that I will address. Tonight I'm here to talk about my girls, our girls, and 3 things I'm teaching my daughters, because we all know what have existed in communities and communities of faith, in families, where abuse was hidden behind the phrase, "That's just how he is, that's just how she is, that's just how they are." Everyone has problems. We don't talk about family business. People have shielded, protected, and lied for abusers. And when the unthinkable happens, no one knew that they would ever go that far. The thing about it is domestic violence has always existed. Every October is Domestic Violence Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the United States. And yet with all of this so-called awareness, many of our women are still not in safe spaces. My coach talked about this this week in our coaching session, and I was triggered. I wasn't actually mentally prepared because, as I've stated before, many of us did not come from safe homes and safe spaces. Many of us came from trauma, chaos, abuse, manipulation, silence, control, inconsistency, and fear. Some of us learned early that love comes with keeping someone or a person happy. That affection can come with potential pressure, and that pressure can show up as codependency. In families that expect loyalty over safety, you learn to diminish your pain and that it is normal. And that's why this conversation matters, because trauma has a way of challenging, changing, and subverting your judgment when it is unhealed. It's like rose-colored glasses. Our nervous systems yearn for the familiar. And childhood trauma makes dysfunction, chaos, manipulation, control, and yes, even abuse seem familiar, comfortable, or normal. It can make you over-explain bad behavior, minimize red flags, and stay in spaces until it is far too late and you are unsafe. These are places that starve your spirit. And in many cases, they land you exactly where you swore you'd never be as a child of abuse. So when I thought about what I wanted to teach my daughters, I'm not just thinking about how to help them navigate dating and find a healthy relationship to get married. I'm thinking about how to help them stay physically, emotionally, and spiritually safe until they get to that point. How to help them guard their minds. How to help them differentiate themselves from the familial systems they came from and how they were raised. To know the difference between love and control, between patience and denial, and between compassion and codependency, because codependency will have you calling your own bondage loyalty. It will keep you confusing dysfunction with depth in a relationship, and it will keep you trauma bonded to someone who will not love and cherish you the way that you deserve. And we've seen these relationships. They go from 0 to 90 in 5 minutes and 35 seconds. That's just trauma bonding. Codependency will have you trying to heal people who are committed to harming you to preserve themselves. And it will keep you betraying yourself in the name of being needed. So tonight I just wanted to come on and give you 3 things that I'm teaching my daughters about relationships, about themselves, and about how to stay safe in this season. 1, in dating, just do not overlook red flags. I am teaching my daughters that dating is not a place for desperate hope. You are not desperate. You do not need to hold on. Dating is a place for detachment, discernment, observation, and honesty. You're not dating to prove that you're lovable, that you're likable, that you're attractive enough, or that someone wants you. And you are not dating to rescue a broken man. Okay? Don't date a man that you feel sorry for, because they will always bite you. Dating is not an audition for a man's love. And one of the things I've recently said, and I want to say I'm going to repeat this later, but in dating, absolutely do not stay because you think that a man has potential. I talk about potential a lot. I talked about it last week, but if a man shows you disrespect, if he shows other women disrespect, and one of the things that I always watched for on my dates was how a man spoke to and treated the waitresses when we went out. That showed me how he would treat me. Because if he shows his disrespect in front of you, believe it, it will come to you. If he's controlling early, what do you think he's going to do to you? If he's calling you every 20 seconds, wanting to know where you're going and what you're doing and who you're with, even if it seems innocuous or it seems like love. If he's jealous in unhealthy ways of your friends, your siblings, your family members, time that's not spent with him, believe him. It's not cute. It's not love. It's control. If he cannot handle healthy boundaries early, believe it. Believe it or not, I'm a rules girl. The rules came out, I don't know, in the 60s or 70s, and one of my good friends introduced me to the book. One of my early things in relationships was that I did not stay on the phone with a man, I think, past like 10 or 10:30. It was like 20 or 30 minutes tops, and that was my boundary. guys who could not respect it, who were always trying to push it and make me feel guilty. I believed them the first time and I moved on. Men who are inconsistent. We talked about this last week. If they are manipulative, if they are explosive, if they blow up off the handle, even if it's not at you, about something simple and do something unthinkable. I'm talking about throwing something, breaking something, punching a hole in the wall, slamming things that don't belong to them, cursing people out in public. Believe them the first time. Don't explain it away. Don't look for good qualities. Don't spiritualize. Call it a rough patch. Don't write a narrative or a script to put yourself in a story that was never yours. I need my daughters to understand that you will never understand what could happen down the line. Life is too serious. The stakes are too high. You never know. And who you marry and who you have a child with are the things that affect the woman's life the most. The stakes are too high to waste time with a man you know from early o'clock is not worth building a life with. If he is unsafe, if he is not of sound mind, if he is not financially stable, if he is not honest, if he is not kind, what exactly are we doing here? Last week I talked about potential, so I won't rehash that, but I need us to recognize that many times even parents, aunts, well-meaning godmothers, friends, church mothers, honey, they will be pushing you. They want you to just see where it goes. Oh, it's not okay that he didn't pay for dinner. He didn't open the door, but sometimes these things happen. Sometimes when you're articulating these little nits, these little things that bothered you, the little things that your brain flags and tells you that are off, others will try to get you to explain it away. For my girls, I'm teaching them to have their own. I'm not teaching them to expect a man to provide for them what they cannot provide for themselves. Point blank, period. I'm also teaching them to look at character. And maybe the only way that they can articulate the little things that demonstrate a lack of character and the way that they were uncomfortable and their discernment was pricked was a sharp word, a door closing a little too close to their toes, or a little snide comment diminishing their desire to achieve. I tell them, do not stop and see where it goes. Wisdom knows when to leave early, and the moment you catch a flag, a real red flag, leaving is simply a wiser choice. I started writing a book a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, maybe longer than that, in which I did 51 first dates. When I say 51 first date, I went on more dates than 51 in that year. I think it was actually 16 months. But I went on 51 dates in which I only saw the guy one time. And the reason why, and none of the reasons would astound you, because I was dating in Atlanta. I'm sure there are TikToks for years about that. But what I will say is that many women went on to seriously date some of these men long term, and I'm sure the stories are epic. Leaving is often the wiser choice. Leaving is often the better part of wisdom, because when you leave early, your emotions are not engaged. When you leave early, they can't love bomb you and make you doubt what you saw, what you heard, and what you felt. So you leave not after the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 10th, or the 17th incident, and not after you're emotionally entangled, your self-worth is eroded, and you have been pushed and pulled back and forth with his nagging and emotional manipulation. The better part of wisdom is recognizing the red flags and leaving early. The second thing that I'm teaching my girls, and that was one, the moment you catch a red flag, goodbye. Number 2, a man who doesn't want to see you thriving. A man who does not want to see you thriving is not loving you well. I need my daughters to recognize this early. If a man is threatened by your growth, your strength, your potential, your wisdom, your intelligence, your independence, your discipline, your calling, your joy, your ability to stand on your own, your friendships, your support group, that tells you something. In a healthy relationship, the other person should not be intimidated by your life, your relationships, and your ability to function on your own. They should want a fully functional partner. A weak, controlling, abusive man needs you weak to feel strong. He needs you confused to feel important. And he doesn't resent your independence just because it makes him feel bad. It makes him feel unnecessary. So yes, ma'am, just because older generations have settled for poor behavior does not mean we need to repeat the cycle. I want to be clear. It is okay. It's necessary for us to do it differently. Being in a situation with an unhealthy man who is intimidated by your ability to move without him is a threat to your health and your safety. So if a man only feels secure when you're dependent, limited, needy, when you're shrinking, when you are not doing as well as him, standing back from the limelight, that's not love. It's self-interest dressed in relationship language. And I need my daughters to see and understand that and be able to clearly articulate that and understand the difference. Because a man who truly cares about you wants to see you thriving, healed, growing, walking in purpose, handling your business, building your life, and standing with dignity. And I think that that is the number one mark. Uh-oh, there goes my camera. I don't know what happened to my camera, guys. But what I will say, a man who does not want to see you walking in your calling, even if he says he wants to love you, support you, protect you, provide for you, cover you physically, emotionally, and spiritually, that is not true if he needs to reduce you to keep you. If he needs to minimize you to validate himself. So when a man is more concerned with the impact that you have on his life than your actual well-being, red flag. Some men don't love the women that they're with. They love what they provide. They love the emotional labor. They love your loyalty. They love your body. And you can pick this up. I'm teaching my daughters to listen for the compliments that the men give. They love your availability. They love your silence. They love how much easier you make their lives. They love how other people look at them when you're on their arm. But these men tend to choose not to make room for your humanity, just your usefulness. And again, we'll pick it up in the comments, in the compliment, as it were, that they give you. They'll compliment your body, your cooking. They'll compliment how you handle things and how you accomplish things, but they don't compliment you doing the things for you. They don't compliment you and cheer for you when you're doing well in your career, when you're doing well in your doctoral program. If a man doesn't desire to see you thriving, independent, and able to do for yourself, his interest was never in you. It was in what you could do for him and add to his life. And that's not a life. And it's not a love on which you can build a life. So the last one, and this one is the most important. It's never too late to leave quietly. Sometimes you do ignore the red flag. Sometimes you do ignore the signs. Sometimes they're just very good at masking. So this is the part that most women need to hear. And I tell this to my daughters because I never want them to fear judgment from me. So whether you're 19, 39, or 69, it's never too late to leave. Not after years. Not after children. Not after marriage. Not after public embarrassment, spiritual pressure, financial entanglement. Not after hoping, praying, pleading, and trying again and again and again. It is never too late to leave quietly. Sometimes the strongest thing a woman can do is leave quietly. Not everything needs an announcement, a debate, an ultimatum. You don't need a final speech for him to understand what he's done. Wisdom is silent, and safety is usually right on the other side of your silence. Healing begins when you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And if we've seen anything about anything in this news cycle, I need you to be very clear. Silence is necessary. Quiet doesn't mean unsupported, but it doesn't mean careless. It does not mean isolated. It means you are no longer obligated to perform an exit for people who have shown you who they are. Move with wisdom. Get support where you can. Make a plan. Tell one or two, preferably, no more. Safe people, and you know the difference between a safe person and a person you want to be safe. But most importantly, it means you stop confusing access with entitlement. I need my daughters to know that leaving is not failure, because sometimes leaving is the first honest thing that you're going to do for yourself in a long time. And if you're having to think about it, it's not just a breakup, it's a big deal. But leaving is repentance. It's repenting from self-abandonment, because in many of these relationships, the very first thing to go is your identity. And sometimes leaving is the moment when you finally agree with God that your life matters, your calling matters, your purpose matters. That what He put in you and gave you to walk in is more important than feeling needed by someone who only needs you to prop them up. So yes, I'm teaching my daughters to love. I'm teaching them to be kind and compassionate and prayerful, open-hearted. But I'm also teaching them to be discerning, to tell the truth, to stop romanticizing struggle, and that it is never, ever, ever too late to leave. When we stop confusing trauma bonds with deep emotional connection and calling control and emotional slavery and entanglement love, we can recognize where our relationships have fallen short. I will not raise them to be another cog, another sacrifice in the wheel of a broken system. I would like my daughters to be whole, safe, clear, and walking in their purpose. But even if not, even if the relationship they choose is not the one, I want them to know that no relationship is worth losing your peace, your voice, your mind, your purpose, your calling, your future, and your life. None of us was called to save anyone else at the expense of ourselves. There is one Messiah, and that is God. One of the cruelest lies that codependency tells us is that our value is what we do. So I'm teaching my daughters to see clearly, to leave early, to never apologize for choosing peace, wisdom, and safety. I want them to learn to choose them. And tonight I say to you, choose you. That's one of the most important things that you will ever do. And that is what I mean when I say you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. Choose wisely. I'm teaching my daughters to choose themselves. And tonight, if you feel like you've struggled with self-abandonment, if you recognize yourself in any part of this conversation, just remember number 3. It's never too late to leave quietly. Be safe. Be loved. I pray that you are well. And remember, freedom and purpose are on the other side of your wisdom and your discernment. Have a good evening, and I hope to see you next week for Wisdom Wednesday.